This Memorial Day weekend, as we honor more than 1 million servicemen and women who sacrificed their lives to defend our nation and our freedoms, we come face to face with hard evidence that the deep state planned to take down our duly elected president. A deep state from President Obama on down that did everything in its power to destroy Donald Trump. The latest? A spy placed in the Trump campaign. Sound loony? Well, last year, we thought you'd have to be wearing a tinfoil hat to believe President Trump when he said that he'd been wiretapped. And now we know secret surveillance was conducted on at least 7 Trump associates. An unmasking of Americans done at a 350% increase in the presidential election year by Obama deep staters. And now we find out a spy was placed by the FBI in the Trump campaign. You can be sure that there's more as the DOJ and FBI fight the release of information sought by Congress. So, will they ever admit there was a spy?
As best I can tell, it's made up. I don't know where he's getting that from, honestly.
Do you find that to be at all possible or probable? I'm going to just play devil's advocate, that there was a spy inserted into his campaign by an intelligence agency?
I don't find it possible, and I know it not to be true.
I think it's very typical of Mr. Trump to mischaracterize. He's a master of mischaracterization and dishonesty. To label someone as a spy when they're a confidential human source, I think, is doing a disservice to these individuals, but also to the FBI.
But like most liars, they can't keep their stories straight. Clapper, on the other hand, pretty much admits there was a spy, and he thinks Trump should be grateful.
Was the FBI spying on Trump's campaign?
No, they were not. They were spying on a term I don't particularly like, but on what the Russians were doing, trying to understand, were the Russians infiltrating, trying to gain access, trying to gain leverage and influence.
So why doesn't he like
what they do?
So why doesn't he like that? He should be happy that.
Well, he should be.
If ever you weren't sure who to believe, I'm going to make this real easy for you. The Obama administration was so determined to get Hillary Clinton elected and Donald Trump defeated that they let Hillary skate on her criminal activity and created a narrative of criminal activity on the part of Donald Trump. They created a false predicate, a made-up dossier, paid for by Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and the FBI in order to get a court to approve spying on Trump's campaign. And they were allowed to spy on the campaign for a year. They kept it close. Only the highest level of the FBI, not the field offices. The highest levels worked together to take Trump down. They planned insurance in the event their girl Hillary didn't win. They leaked information harmful to Donald Trump to the press. And it was ahead of the FBI at the behest of James Clapper, who privately told the president about the fake dossier so that they could leak it to the press and the world. So who are you going to believe? Take a look at this chart. They're all liars. James Comey, the head of the FBI, lied about whether he had ever been an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump or Clinton investigations. He replied, never. But Mr. Leaker himself had to admit that he did so. Comey also lied before Congress when he testified that he briefed the president about the dossier because he learned the media was about to report on it. In truth, Comey briefed Trump for the very purpose of getting that dossier out to the public. And Comey said his investigation of Hillary was thorough. In truth, he wrote an exoneration memo long before essential witnesses were even interviewed. And of course, his deputy director, Andrew McCabe, that I didn't even put on my chart, lied so many times the guy had to be fired. And to get someone to fire in that agency is amazing. And Attorney General Loretta Lynch, who pushed to call the Clinton investigation a matter, lied when she said there were no emails between her department and the FBI, when she used an email with a fake name to write about her infamous tarmac meeting with former President Clinton. James Clapper, another hoot, the director of the National Intelligence Agency, pretty much lies whenever he opens his mouth, like when he lied before Congress in answer to a quite direct question about whether or not his agency collected data on hundreds of millions of Americans. He said no, not wittingly. He also lied about the Trump dossier, saying he never leaked it to CNN. He since admitted that he did, and now he's on CNN's payroll. John Brennan, head of the CIA, lied and said the Steele dossier was not part of the intelligence community's evidence on Russian interference in the 2016 election. And again, liars not being able to keep their stories straight. He was contradicted by Clapper. Now, you remember Susan Rice. Her lying started long before Benghazi and that despicable video. She also lied and said that in the final days of the Obama administration, she knew nothing about the surveillance of President-elect Trump and people around him. And she knew nothing about identities being unmasked. Shortly thereafter, she came clean, telling House investigators she unmasked senior Trump officials. And the big kahuna at the top, just before the inauguration, President Obama created new rules that allowed intelligence historically protected within one agency to be spread across at least 16 agencies, signaling to his people, let it all hang out and leak your heart away on Trump. So I, for one, am sick and tired of these liars, leakers, and liberals attacking our president and our democracy when they are the ones who tried to frame him. Here's a primer for all of you. If you're going to set up a president to try to frame him, do it against someone who's dumber than you are.